Alexei Ivanov forgot his native Russian language the same way children forget a nightmare. Born in Chuvashia, he was brought to the United States as a young child. His mother packed nothing but ambition, and Alexei quickly shed his cultural history, adopting American culture with absolute totality. By his early 30s, Alexei is the picture of quiet, unshakable confidence. He lives in an immaculate, highly organized apartment. His mind naturally categorizes chaos into order, making him exceptionally good at his job. This animated diagram illustrates how Alexei's work functions. He threads financial formulas through global markets like invisible rivers of data. His code is elegant. He identifies market inefficiencies and solves complex structural problems before his colleagues even realize those problems exist. Then, without a single warning sign, a deafening spike of pure noise drives itself directly into his skull. It has no source, it lasts 3 seconds, then vanishes. He checks his empty apartment. He checks his hardware. He finds nothing. A mind built entirely on measurable systems is uniquely vulnerable when it encounters a variable it cannot track. Chaos that defies logic immediately fractures a heavily ordered reality. The noise returns the next night, and the night after that. Within days, the raw noise sharpens into distinct voices. The voices have an accent, and they carry highly specific threats. They recite his bank account numbers. They whisper his encrypted access credentials. They name colleagues never mentioned publicly. The physiological assault follows a strict schedule. Alexei is subjected to exact 7-day cycles of severe sleep deprivation. His body begs for rest, but the moment he reaches the threshold of unconsciousness, the noise yanks him awake, systematically dismantling his natural neurological defenses. When sleep finally does arrive, it brings foreign imagery. During his REM cycle, where the brain processes memory and emotion, he experiences engineered dreams. He sees golden domes and red brick squares. He hears warm voices speaking in his dormant native Russian, attempting to trigger patriotic neural pathways he thought he abandoned decades ago. He seeks medical help, but his doctors apply the only framework they know. They look at his sudden paranoia, sleep loss, and auditory hallucinations, and diagnose him with a first-presentation schizophrenic episode. They prescribe heavy medication. His friends quietly pull away. The objective of the assault is highly specific. The SVR is executing a calculated operation to erase Alexei's American identity, hollowing him out so his consciousness can be rewritten from the ground up. Deep inside a secure facility that appears on 0 public maps, a small team of psychological warfare specialists monitors Alexei's distress. This is an elite branch of the SVR, Russia's foreign intelligence agency. These operators operate with clinical intensity. They do not view their actions as torture. In their view, they are patriotic technicians. They believe they are actively reclaiming a highly valuable son of the motherland who was stolen and reprogrammed by the West. This vector graphic breaks down their primary weapon, quantum entanglement. By establishing a biological baseline, operators create an instantaneous connection directly into his consciousness. Looking at the live telemetry, they track his heart rate to precisely time their psychological injections. Alexei is a highly calculated target. He possesses high-level access to Western financial systems. Combined with his deep, dormant Russian linguistic pathways, his profile provides the SVR a direct conduit to manipulate global markets from the inside. Alexei is placed under involuntary commitment in a pale green psychiatric ward. Stripped of his computers, his status, and his freedom, he is trapped in a hospital bed while the auditory attacks continue without pause. But his analytical mind refuses to stop working. He feigns compliance for the ward staff, quietly swallowing some pills and hiding others. In a hidden notebook, he develops a personalized cipher, mixing programming logic with childhood phrases to log the timestamps, frequencies, and linguistics of his attacks. On his 43rd day inside the ward, he isolates a critical anomaly. One of the injected English whispers contains a slight phonetic stress error, a tiny rhythmic mistake in the cadence that a native speaker would never naturally produce. This side-by-side waveform comparison reveals exactly what Alexei heard. A natural voice carries organic variance. A non-native language model attempting to simulate natural speech produces micro-errors in the timing. Alexei, possessing a mind tuned to catch tiny structural flaws, recognized the glitch. Isolating that error reclassifies his situation. If his own subconscious were generating the voices, the native English cadence would be flawless. The mistake confirms the presence of an external, synthetic system. He is an analyst observing an adversary's technical failure. Upon his release, Alexei compiles his evidence. He details the degradation windows and injection protocols, and presents his findings calmly to 15 U.S. intelligence agencies. Every single one turns him away. The rejection is an institutional failure of imagination. The existing defense bureaucracy has no filing cabinet for remote neurological warfare. When presented with quantum consciousness intrusion, the system falls back on the easiest available explanation. They assume the man in front of them is unwell. Operating completely alone, Alexei shifts his tactics inward. He begins systematically retraining his own mind. He relearns Russian specifically to detect the seams in the engineered dreams. He builds heavy mental architecture, training his brain to instantly identify an external signal and actively block it. With his mental defenses secure, he needs a way to distribute his intelligence. He spends 8 months writing a technical document that maps out the SVR's quantum capabilities, their target profiles, and the biological protocols. He formats this document as a cinematic screenplay. Packaging this data as a film script solves his distribution problem. A screenplay requires no government security clearance to read. It bypasses classified networks entirely, travels freely across international borders, and relies on human attention to decrypt the warning hidden inside the fiction. Back in the unmapped SVR facility, the operators stare at their monitors. The telemetry shows that their attacks are failing. The REM stage ideological sequences find zero purchase, and the biological feedback loops return nothing but static. Running diagnostics confirms their quantum entanglement technology is functioning perfectly. The hardware is sound. The variable that broke the system is Alexei. His mind has learned to recognize the foreign signals in real time and actively refuses them access. The operators sit in silence as they realize the scope of their error. By targeting a man uniquely equipped to analyze systems, they lost their subject and provided him with the raw data to map their entire operation. Half a world away, Alexei sits on a park bench. The wind is real. The sunlight is unmanufactured. For the first time in months, the boundary between his thoughts and the physical world belongs entirely to him. The most effective defense against invisible interference is a mind that knows itself well enough to recognize an intruder. Alexei secured his consciousness, and then he released his blueprint into the world, a story functioning as a counterweapon, detonating